Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. This episode is part of a special series we recorded live at PASBO Conference, also known as the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this year. While we were there, we had the chance to sit down with school leaders, business officials, and partners from across the region to talk about what it really looks like to plan, fund, and support today's learning environments. So in this series, you'll hear a real conversation about the trade-offs, the challenges, and the opportunities that come with trying to build better learning environments. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. I'm here with Marcia. Marcia, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, the type of work you do.
Yep. So I'm currently the Chief Financial Officer for Harrisburg City Schools. I've been there going on 5 years. Prior to that, I've been in school finance and operations, anywhere from small or rural school districts, New Orleans in Louisiana. Started my career in New York at a school on a Native American Indian reservation. So a lot of different environments, but been at Harrisburg for going on 5 years now.
That's fascinating. I'm going to take a detour there with you real quick. So it is interesting. Like, I come to this conversation as an educator, right? So if I'm talking teaching, I can talk to anybody anywhere. Like, that's my universal passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this community of school business officials, right? And you've been now in many contexts. Talk to me about kind of the universal bond that you share with people who work in those different spaces, irrespective of geography.
Yes, I think that it takes a unique person to go into this role because you have to have a passion for education, even though you aren't the person in the classroom. You are still the person behind the scenes supporting students. It's a role that no one else in the district quite understands. There's, multiple principals typically in a district, they can unite. But the role of a CFO is really like this silent leader who's running the district from behind, who's not necessarily always in the spotlight, but always looking out for the best interest of a lot of constituents. Obviously, our students, the community, making sure you have the back of your superintendent, being the trusted advisor by your board of education. So it's definitely a unique role, and it really takes somebody who can look at things from a high level and then be able to drill down and see how does it actually impact that student in the classroom.
I'm so tempted to ask you more about these different places you've worked, right? So give me a compare and contrast between, say, New York City or a Native American reservation, or New Orleans, right? A major metropolitan district in the American South, or compared to Harrisburg. Give me a compare and contrast in terms of the way you approach your work based on where you were at the time.
So I think the number one thing is to try to understand the community that you're serving and be able to build the team around you. No matter where I am, I'm never successful unless the team of people around me are growing and that they are feeling that I am supporting them in their roles and that we are supporting the betterment of the school district. And being a person who has been able to adjust to a lot of different settings, I think that it really shows that you don't need to be from a community to support and make better that community that you're serving. I was in New Orleans. I spent time there as a child growing up, and so I wanted to go back. And I went into a turnaround school district. It was under the state.
This is after Katrina?
This was after Katrina. It's not necessarily associated with Katrina, but after Katrina. And knew that we had a lot of improvements that needed to be done because the kids there had been historically underserved. The district was in a significant crisis. You definitely were 50 out of 50 states for education and really got to work in a different environment, very fast-paced, very much turnaround, but really could see the impact of my day-to-day work on the students and on the community as a whole.
So you randomly selected a card.
I did.
In the midst of our pre-conversation meeting here. And it actually is a good segue from that last point you just made, which I think is a really important insight. So how do you help people understand the long-term value of investing in school facilities, furniture, technology, construction? How do you help people who maybe sit outside of a school district themselves How do you help them see the big picture and why that's the right place to allocate resources?
So I think the district that I'm currently working at, Harrisburg City, is a prime example. So Harrisburg City, when I came there, was under state receivership, which means that the board did not have local control anymore. And it had been years and years of financial crisis. And one of the things that happens in a school district as they slide into that financial crisis role is, where do I start making cuts? And the first place that typically gets cut are maintenance, facilities, sometimes technology, but definitely furniture. And it was a unique situation to go into because we are not in a position to borrow. 20 plus years ago, they maxed out the district's debt. There was a significant amount of debt burden that we had. We can't borrow for another 10 plus years at this point in time. But I had buildings. I had 13 schools that needed attention. I needed to make sure that students could come to a safe environment, that they could come to a comfortable learning environment. And I also knew that besides the students, in order for me to maintain staff and maintain teachers, I needed to create a work environment that they wanted to come to as well. So definitely made a significant decision to do a 10-year capital plan and be able to utilize ESSER funding to do some significant improvements when it came to HVAC, when it come to renovating a closed elementary school and reopening it, and then being able to start planning out ways to improve our district, because we knew that if we're going to turn around and have pride put back into our schools, that we need to have facilities that kids felt comfortable coming to, comfortable learning, and staff felt comfortable coming and teaching. So we've done a significant turnaround in Harrisburg by investing in our facilities, by anything from LED lights, HVAC, painting, refinishing gym floors, improving our athletic complexes, making sure our roof maintenance is done and on schedule, all the things that we can do to ensure that our buildings are in the best possible condition before we are in a position to borrow and do major renovation projects. And we've been extremely successful in doing that over the last 4 years. It's night and day to what our kids are experiencing today versus what they were experiencing 5 years ago in the district. And it's definitely brought a lot of pride, a community pride back in our schools. And I think one of the things that people don't understand is that problem isn't going to go away. That roof isn't going to stop leaking. That HVAC isn't all of a sudden going to start working. But what you're going to end up doing is you're going to impact instruction if you don't address those. Because if I don't have heat in my building, I'm not bringing my kids to school that day. That's a day that they're not getting proper instruction. It's a day they're not getting the meals that we serve them. It's a day that they're not in a safe environment and actually learning and growing as individuals. Without proper facilities, I can't offer the opportunities for students to be exposed to different career fields, to be exposed to athletics and team building opportunities, to be exposed to clubs, all the things that make the whole child. If I don't have adequate facilities to be able to do that in, I'm not able to properly educate the whole child.
And this requires, first of all, thank you for sort of painting such a full picture, because I think what you just did there is illustrate that when people say spend on schools, it seems like an abstract vacuum of funds. What you just did is you filled in with perfect precision where that goes and why it affects students, right? And why that's good for communities and municipalities, right? So thank you so much. What do you think is a moment you've had recently where you just felt like, whether it was a project or an initiative, something you were working on, where you just felt like, you know what, this is why I do this. This is why I do this. Have you had any of those recently?
Well, I have had some of those recently, and we had a departure in our superintendency back in June of 2024, and I stepped up and said, I'll serve as acting superintendent at the time. And at that time, the district was going through a major reorganization, and we were opening an elementary school that had been shuttered since 2010 to try to revitalize and create neighborhood schools so our kids, all our elementary kids, families could associate with a in-neighborhood school again. And so we took this building that had been shuttered for 12, 13 years and made it a stunning piece for this community in this neighborhood. And it was difficult to make sure we could get that building opened for the first day of school for kids. Let me tell you, there was a lot of long hours, a lot of pushing contractors, a lot of 11th hour things to ensure that this building was ready for students the first day. But being there the first day and then doing the ribbon cutting and seeing that this is beyond just a building. This is a neighborhood piece that it is going to draw this community together. It is going to take a blighted building that was an eyesore and make it something that that neighborhood could be proud of and serve 300-400 kids day in and day out. And to have it designed so that it maintained the historical significance of the building, but modernizing it so it created a model for the rest of our classrooms to follow in the entire district. And I think, that's just one example of, it's a building, but it's so much more.
It's a social institution. It's part of the fabric of a place.
Yes.
Right? Yes. I appreciate the seriousness that you talk about your work. I think it's inspiring. Let's end with a fun question.
Okay.
Is that all right?
That's good.
Go ahead and grab one of these randomly here. Let's see what you get. I mean, these are all fun topics, by the way. I love talking about this.
If I could give every school building one magical superpower, what would it be? I think for Harrisburg and for many urban school leaders, we know that as much as we try to be everything for every child, because a lot of our kids are coming where we are the safest environment for them. We provide them stability. We provide them motivation. We provide them meals. We provide them, so much of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think that if I had a magical superpower, it would be not to fall short for any of our students and any of those needs, and to make sure that we can improve more than what we can do today for all of those kids.
Beautiful response. It was supposed to be fun, but you made it, you pulled at my heartstrings because, I'm an urban educator. And so I so appreciate it, Marcia. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Nice to meet you, Matt. Thank you.
The Better Learning Podcast is produced by Matt Rogers and edited by Kelly Jones. The views and opinions shared on this podcast are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily represent the perspectives of their affiliated companies, organizations, or associations.